Hello, welcome to Thematic Block 3, Learning Theme 1. This video is focused on the area of DigComp Edu Strand 3.2 guidance. We'll be looking at the leadership level of proficiency, and the purpose of the presentation is to test and gather evidence on the impact of technologies on student learning and the learning experience. So the video is mainly concerned with how you evaluate digital learning technologies. So we need to look at how we know if digital technology is working, and this week we're going to explore some systematic approaches to evaluating digital learning tools, particularly like the one you created in the previous learning block, the customised chatbot. I suppose it's about moving beyond kind of informal approaches to evaluation, looking at more systematic evidence-based approaches, more grounded in the science of learning. So there is a lack of research on specific learning technologies and their impact on student learning. Good approaches are piloting and structured evaluations in terms of filling the gaps and understanding about how technology enhances learning. And I suppose we're focusing here on a scientific approach grounded in the science of learning. Within other countries, I suppose most schools identify structured outcomes for the technology they invest in, and they regularly evaluate the impact against prescribed outcomes. And I suppose it's really worthwhile to adopt this model within our own practice. So just in terms of what evaluation of practice is, it's about adopting an evidence-based approach to determine how technologies impact our student learning. And we're looking at using the scholarship of teaching and learning and the science of learning to adopt a systematic process. It's kind of used interchangeably, so the scholarship of teaching and learning, the science of learning, reflective practice, practitioner inquiry and evidence-based decision-making are all ways of saying the same thing, but basically it's about interrogating educational practice with view to reconceptualising or transforming your own practice and looking at the impact of technology on those. So there's a number of different approaches that you do. I suppose firstly it's important to pick a focus for your evaluation. So what are you trying to measure? What are you trying to evaluate? Teaching and learning is multifaceted and it's not possible to measure everything. So when you're using technology, it's not possible to determine every impact the technology might have. So it's important to focus on a particular element of the student learning and how the technology is using that element. I suppose it's important to note just using the technology itself doesn't equate to successful learning outcomes or a successful impact. We need to use it using principles of the science of learning or pedagogical theories that we looked at previously. So it's important to look at your school context and looking at how this approach can support your decision making about the types of tools you create or the types of tools you purchase for your schools. For students, it also helps you to identify how technology can enhance their learning and help them to perform better or enjoy their learning experience. And for your teaching, I suppose the evaluation helps you to explore pedagogical approaches. So we need to look at what's the purposes of the evaluation. Is it for your school to pick a piece of technology to invest in or to create? Is it for your students to measure the impact on their learning experience or their learning outcomes? Or is it for you as your own teaching to improve your own pedagogical practice? So it's important that we can't measure everything. We need a specific area of focus. And there's different dimensions that you can look at. You can look at, does technology help improve particular skills like problem solving, critical thinking, reflection, information literacy? How do students behave? Does it affect how students behave? Does it encourage them to become more independent? Does it encourage them to become more motivated or engaged within the learning environment? Does it increase their academic performance? Does it increase their grades? Does it help them to achieve the learning outcomes better? Does it help you to achieve unintended learning outcomes that you didn't expect? Does it change their attitudes towards a particular subject area or towards a teacher or towards their peers? Does it enhance the learning experience? Do they become more included? Do they enjoy learning a little bit more? Do they feel more belonging in a class? Or does it help them to apply the learning in practice or in a different subject area? So these are all dimensions that you can learn or decide to evaluate. So you would pick some of these, not all of them, in terms of how you might evaluate. And in the next activity, you look at kind of sample evaluation plan. So once you kind of know what's the purposes of the evaluation, is it, to purchase a tool, or is it to help students learn, or is it for your own pedagogical practice, and the dimensions of which you're evaluating, then you need to see when you're going to conduct the evaluation. So are you going to compare before they use the technology and after use the technology? If so, there needs to be some data gathering before, or from a previous year, or after. And what's the best way of doing this? Or other alternatives are maybe use a control group, so maybe half the class uses the technology, the other half don't, and you compare the impact. It's important to notice the ethical implications of these. So, if you're dividing them up into two groups, and one uses the technology and others don't for the study, it's important afterwards that all students get to avail of the same opportunities. So maybe after the study has been completed, that the students that didn't get the opportunity to use the technology also get to use the technology. So the different ways of doing that are maybe do pre and post kind of questionnaires or data gathering, doing kind of control groups versus normal group where you split the class in half, or maybe kind of a before and after similar approach where the year before they didn't use technology or they use a particular approach, and the year after they use a different approach, and you compare. Summative approach then is the impact, evaluating the impact after the technology is used. So this is best for looking at the learning experience, student satisfaction and retention. It's important to note the comparative, I suppose, is good for academic performance and skills development and measuring those. And then a combination of formative and summative help you determine the impact over time. So maybe you might have a pre and post, before and after, but then you might have regular intervals where you check in with the students to measure their attitude towards technology over a period of time. So there's different steps once you've kind of identified the purpose of the evaluation, what you're going to evaluate and when. First of all, you need to define success. You need to review content, choose evidence, and collect and analyse the data. And each step builds on the last. So the first step is defining success and learning from others. So what does successful student engagement look like? So we're measuring student engagement. What does this look like? Is it where students answer questions? Is it where they complete work? Or is it where they participate in class discussions? Is it where they seem to be enjoying learning? So student engagement, like anything, could be multiple. It could be behavioural. How do they attend class? Do they look less distracted? It could be affective, that they enjoy, engaging in the material, or it could be cognitive, where they complete tasks. So, we need to look at what we're trying to measure, what dimension, and what success looks like for the students. Then once we know kind of what we're looking at and what we're kind of measuring, we need to look at how other people have done it. So if it's student engagement, there might be surveys or previous kind of instruments that people might use. So, looking maybe on Google Scholar, stuff like that, for examples of how people might have done it before, and taking that and adapting it for your context. It's important to note that if you're using questionnaires, like self-assessment questionnaires, sometimes, they lack age-appropriate language, so these might need to be adapted, and in most instances they need to be adapted. So once you've identified what you're measuring, what success looks like, and how you're measuring, you need to look at how you're going to gather the evidence. So you want to consider what you want to evaluate. So if it's perceived, it's based on opinion, it's effective, it's very qualitative, whereas actual is, based on the performance, and this might be based on quantitative evidence. So quantitative evidence, where their actual performance will be good, is questionnaires like measurement scales, measuring their skills before and after, looking at how they felt about something before and after. Or you could use digital data available to you, so logins to Google Classroom or Microsoft Teams, the time spent on a task, quiz questionnaires, time they completed the homework. So There's a lot of digital data that you can use on a quantitative basis, as well as conducting kind of surveys. Qualitative evidence then might be maybe observing how they participate in class, asking questions about their behaviour, or asking them to talk about something, analysing the content of their work, like assignments, pictures, narrative inquiry, maybe where the student might tell a story about how they felt about something, or create a video. Or focus groups and interviews are also good, where you talk to the students about their own experiences and gather data. I think the more we can be transparent with our students and situate it in authentic contexts and be very open about them about what we're trying to do, it's really, really critical. So they can be part of the evaluation process and co-creators of the research. And then evaluating the software. So you need to look at these different studies and how they approach them, and look at those. So we're going to, after this, you're going to look at some sample evaluation studies that have been done and critique the pedagogical approach, the rigour of the process, is the quality of the study, and how it would impact your decision to purchase a piece of technology. So if you want to pop over, you can do that now, and you'll also get a chance to, in the next activity, to review some samples of evaluation plans.